This is Angela Grayson from the Loving Life Fitness podcast to help others in their fitness journey. All possible.
It's time to wake up. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. This is Angela Grayson, your host of the podcast Loving Life Fitness. Today we have with us Andrew Townsend, who is a Tai Chi instructor and also a published author of 11 books. So hello, Andy. How are you today?
I'm doing just fine, Angela. Thank you for inviting me to join in the podcast today. I hope I can answer some of your questions and maybe provide some information for those individuals who are either beginning the practice of Tai Chi or considering beginning the practice.
Yes, I know this is going to be a real interesting conversation that people are going to want to listen to. So many people are on the fence because they simply don't even know or understand what Tai Chi is. Let's go back to your beginnings, though, Andy. Where do you come from? Where did you go to school?
Well, I was a Navy brat, so we moved all around. I was fortunate that my father got transferred to La Jolla, California, something called the Top Gun School. You know that movie? Yeah. So he was there. And then, long story short, I went to La Jolla High School, went to University of California at San Diego, which is on the cliffs above La Jolla, and then stayed in California. And I did various martial arts training as I was younger. I did karate when I was younger, and then I switched over to Aikido because it suited me, my personality better. But even in Aikido, there's a lot of falling. It's like judo in that regard. And as you get older, it's more uncomfortable falling and hurting yourself. So I was fortunate when I was about 40 years old. I saw this guy doing Tai Chi. I recognized it. I knew what it was. I saw this guy doing Tai Chi in a park, and I said, I need to do that. And so at 40 years of age, I'm 73 now, I found a teacher to teach me Tai Chi. He wasn't very good, as I came to realize later, but that was my beginning in the field of Tai Chi. And I've been practicing Tai Chi now for 33 years. And later on, we'll talk about how I became certified as a teacher, but I was certified in 2005. So I've been teaching Tai Chi for the past 18 years.
Your career, though, after college had nothing to do with Tai Chi. What did you do after you came out of college? What was your job?
Well, that's an interesting question. So initially, I was an accountant. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. And then the company I was working for, I couldn't get the kind of information I wanted to do the reports I wanted. So this was in the day of punch cards. You may remember the punch cards and then the tape on the spools. And so I went to our computer programmers. I said, can you do this report for me? And they said, yeah, submit a request. And maybe in 3 months, we might get around to writing this, report for you. And so I said, well, how about if I teach myself how to write the program? Will you run it for me? And they said, oh, sure. You write the program. We'll run it for you. So I taught myself computer programming, and this was probably back around 1978, 79, something like that. And then I became more and more proficient at writing computer programs for accounting. And then I quit my job as an accountant and became a computer programmer for contract programming for companies that needed specific accounting software written for them. And then I'll just finish up. So then at one point, I got hired to work directly for a computer company, a manufacturing company. And we, like Apple back in the very early 80s, donated some computers to our local community college. And the college said, but we don't know anything about computers. Come teach for us. So then I got a job as a community college professor. And that's really what I did for the majority of my career.
What a range of careers there and how it turned around for you from one point to another.
And I will tell you one other thing interesting. When I was a contract programmer developing these softwares, there was a program that came out. I'm sure you've heard of it, although it's not around anymore. Lotus 1, 2, 3. And so I learned how to use Lotus 1, 2, 3, and I could write scripted macros for people. So they would just load Lotus and they'd push this button and it would prompt them for information and do what they wanted. So I got a reputation in the San Diego area as Mr. Spreadsheet. And that was my nickname. And so anybody needed some specialized spreadsheet, they would call me. And then a publishing house, Simon and Schuster, believe it or not, contacted me through a literary agent and said, would you write a book on how to use Lotus 1, 2, 3? And from there, I wrote a book on Lotus 1, 2, 3, a book on Multiplan, which is the precursor to what we now have is Microsoft Excel, and DBase and a few other books. So I actually became a published author way before I wrote books on Tai Chi, but I don't count those as part of my 11 books. So in addition to my 11 books on Tai Chi and meditation, I also, way back, if people will come to me and say, I didn't realize you wrote a book on Lotus 1, 2, 3, that it's still, they're out there. There's warehouses that still have old books. And anyway, so enough. I'll stop talking. Go ahead.
No, okay, that's very interesting. Quite a history there. So, who would you say that your mentors or where your inspiration came from to get involved in Tai Chi? Why did you go in that direction? I know you said you saw it in a park and you said, I have to start doing that. But was there anybody that influenced you, any mentors to go in that direction?
The answer is no, although later in the podcast, I will talk about my 2 Tai Chi teachers who taught me what I know and that I pass on today. But I was a surfer, and as I was getting older, I was feeling more clumsy on the surfboard. And so I said, and I've always admired surfers who were renowned for their gracefulness. People like Mickey Dora and David Nueva. Anybody who's from my generation that surfs will know those names, and Phil Edwards. So I said, I want to become more graceful. And so at the community college where I was teaching, they offered ballet. And since I was on staff, I could take any class I wanted for free. So I signed up for ballet at 40 years old. As a man, I was the only man in the class full of 18 to 24-year-old girls, beautiful, graceful, lithe girls doing ballet. And do you know anything about ballet?
Not very much, no.
Okay. Well, there's different, when you're in a ballet class, you know about bar work. You certainly know about bar work. So we would do bar work and I was fine with that. But then we got to doing specific moves. And the move that I just couldn't do is this graceful gazelle-like leap that goes across the stage called a jeté. And I just couldn't do it. And I was like an elephant and they were like these gazelles. And I was so embarrassed I withdrew from the class. So that was what inspired me. I knew that Tai Chi was graceful and I knew that it was done slowly. And this may interest some of your listeners. Because Tai Chi is slow, it's easier to learn, especially for older learners who sometimes have trouble following a Zumba class, for example, because the moves are too fast. So that's how I got into Tai Chi.
Wow, ballet into Tai Chi.
Well, failed ballet into Tai Chi, but yes.
You're telling me all your secrets.
Yes.
So your journey in fitness, you were a surfer and you said also that might be one of the reasons why you started taking up Tai Chi. How does that relate?
Oh, it's an interesting question. And actually, Dea, my wife, and I went in June to study with our teacher, Grandmaster Tsao. And it's funny because when I went to San Diego, I connected with a number of my old friends from San Diego. And a couple of times I was late for his summer camp because I was out surfing. And so, to Grandmaster Tsao, that's an insult. You're supposed to be there on time. And so he kind of busted me. I came in one time late and he said, okay, so I want you to tell everybody in the group how Tai Chi and surfing are related. And so I gave a little 10-minute talk about Tai Chi and surfing. So obviously one thing about surfing, to surf well, you have to have good balance. To do Tai Chi, you have to have good balance. And we'll return to this subject a little bit later, but many older individuals take up Tai Chi because they're either told to do so by their doctor or they've heard it's good for balance. And so obviously when you're on a wave, the board moving with the surface of the water is constantly turning, shifting, and so you have to adjust your balance. So surfing aids in the practice of Tai Chi, and Tai Chi aids in the practice of surfing.
Yes, and I know that you do both of those till today, and paddleboarding also. So
Yes,
they go hand in hand. One helps you get better in the other.
exactly.
Maybe we'll get some surfers to start taking some Tai Chi.
One surfer right now, about the age I was when I started. And, he's already noted that his coordination and his balance has improved in surfing a little bit.
What has Tai Chi done for your emotional and mental fitness?
Well, now, this is interesting because I started meditating when I was 19. And so I'm very familiar with meditation. And I've actually studied various different types of meditation: transcendental meditation, Vipassana meditation, which is a Buddhist style of meditation, and also the Chinese type of meditation, which comes from Taoism. So I have a lot of background in meditation. It turns out that when you do Tai Chi correctly, especially with, I don't want to say controlling, but managing your breathing correctly, that it induces within you the same kind of mental state that you would get in seated meditation with your eyes closed. And you may have heard Tai Chi referred to as moving meditation. Tai Chi is oftentimes referred to as a form of moving meditation. And for your listeners who may be wanting to take up Tai Chi as a form of stress management, Tai Chi is just about as effective as seated meditation. And as you know, there's some people who just can't sit and meditate. It's because of what we call the monkey mind. Their mind is just too active. It's hard for them to sit and calm the mind, breathing or repeating a mantra or using any number of meditation techniques. But Tai Chi, because you're actively with your eyes open, you're moving, you're looking around, but still you can lower your breath rate, you can lower your heart rate, you can change your brainwave pattern to essentially be equal to sitting in meditation.
Especially when people first start a meditation practice, it seems impossible. You can't even sit there for a minute to try to focus on your breath, to focus on a flame. You feel silly because your mind is all over the place. And naturally, all of our minds wander. That's what our minds do. So to be in your Tai Chi practice and focusing on that and nothing else, I can see how the meditation just goes hand in hand with that.
Exactly. So I don't want to say that people shouldn't meditate, but I will say that Tai Chi can be a gateway into meditation. Over the course of 6 months to a year, your mind will naturally learn how to calm itself down. And then you might at that point say, hey, I think I might be able to sit and meditate for 5 or 10 minutes. So this is another way. I just had a woman come to me. She had been studying Tai Chi with another person, and she attended one of my classes, and immediately she said, this is the Tai Chi I've been looking for, because she felt for the first time that calmness and relaxation that she hadn't gotten from the other teacher. This is unfortunate, but there's different calibers of Tai Chi teachers. And so there's a lot of teachers who have studied Tai Chi for 1 or 2 years, and they go off and attend a weekend course. You see this in yoga too. They go off and attend a weekend course, and they get a very superficial level of certification, and then they're teaching at the local YMCA or the community center. Tai Chi is a very, very deep practice. There's many levels to Tai Chi. And so unfortunately, many people just get the most superficial level of instruction because their teacher has a very shallow level of knowledge and experience. So because I've been practicing for more than 3 decades and teaching for almost 2 decades, my depth of knowledge is such that I can convey to each individual what they need to know at that time and take them deeper into the practice. And that's when they start to really appreciate what's going on.
Let me ask you, where did you get your education certifications in Tai Chi? Where did you study? I know you've said before you went to California.
So initially, I wanted to learn Tai Chi, and I found a guy who was teaching in a health club. And I said, I want to learn Tai Chi, but I don't want to learn what you're teaching because I saw it was too superficial. I had seen some videos. I knew what Tai Chi was really like. So he agreed to teach me privately. And I studied with him for about 6 months. But at the same time, I was doing research. We didn't really have the internet, but you could get Tai Chi videos, from catalogs. And I was reading a number of books. And I realized that what this man knew was very limited, like I had just previously said. So I was able to find another individual who was a national champion in Tai Chi. His name was Chris Luth, and this was probably back around 1985, I'm guessing, something like that. He was very good, and he had learned from a Chinese master. And so I will tell your listeners, if at all possible, either study directly from a Chinese master, or if you can't, find a teacher who studied with a Chinese master. Don't go more than one generation away from a true Chinese master because it just gets too diluted. So I studied with Chris Luth for a while. And then it turned out I went on a vacation to Hawaii for a summer because I was a college professor. I could take summers off. And I met my first Chinese teacher in Honolulu, Master Huang. And Master Huang himself had studied from a very famous grandmaster, Professor Chen. And he taught me one-on-one 3 times a week for 3 months. And it was a very deep and profound experience. And so I came home from studying with Master Huang. He actually asked me to quit my job and move to Hawaii and become his disciple, but I just couldn't afford it. So I came back and I was looking around. I knew from that point on, no more white people. I'm only going to study with Chinese people, Chinese masters. I know that sounds a bit presumptuous, but so then I found, fortunately, Grandmaster Tsao had just moved to San Diego. He had been working in Phoenix and he moved to San Diego. Long story short, he was very high level, even higher level than Master Huang. And so I went to a class with him, and within one class, I bowed to him and said, you're my master. And so I had been studying with Grandmaster Tsao for, since maybe 88 or something like that. And yeah, he's my teacher. And a few years ago, first of all, he granted me discipleship. So I became one of his disciples. And then he bestowed upon me the title of master. So I don't use this term because I like to be informal with my students, but technically I am a Tai Chi master within a lineage that goes back to around 1650, something like that, an unbroken lineage of master to disciple, master to disciple. So this is probably something you did not know about.
I did not. That's quite an education you've received there.
Yes.
Let's talk about history, the history of Tai Chi.
So you'll notice that I referred to going back to about the 1650, roughly that era. And I've written about this in several of my books. So some people think that Tai Chi has been around for thousands of years, and this is not correct. The idea of Taoism has been around for thousands of years, 2,500 years roughly, since the Tao Te Ching was written by Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu and subsequent masters like Huang Tzu talked about the balance of yin and yang, and that when yin and yang are together mutually, they form what we refer to as Tai Chi. So Tai Chi really just means the harmonious interplay between the forces of yin and the forces of yang. Okay? Now, fast forward to about 1600, there's a family who had been practicing Shaolin martial arts because their village was very close to the Shaolin temple. And that family was called the Chen family. And then Master Chen, he started learning about Taoism, and he interacted with some Taoist monks, and he incorporated the concepts of Taoism, especially yin and yang, soft and hard, into his martial art. And that was when Tai Chi Chuan, which means Tai Chi fighting style or Tai Chi fist, was developed. Then Tai Chi was held closely within that family for a number of generations, about 5 generations. And these people learned to fight. They used soft techniques alternating with hard techniques to fight, and they worked as palace guards and mercenaries and so forth. And they didn't want anyone else to know their secret because it was such an effective style of fighting. If they taught it publicly, other people would learn, and then maybe they could be defeated by other people. Now, this has always been the case in Chinese martial arts. At some point, they did accept one individual from outside their family who learned their skills and then left and made further modifications, and this became known as Yang style Tai Chi. Yang style Tai Chi is the Tai Chi that almost everybody in the world practices, although there's still a lot of people practicing Chen style. The most common Tai Chi that you'll see when you see people practicing in the park is this slow, very graceful, fluid type of Tai Chi. And that's based on the Yang family's Tai Chi. Chen style Tai Chi, I know your listeners can't see me, but Chen style Tai Chi has very fast punches and kicks and jumps and drops down to low positions that really are only suited for younger people. But there are still, of course, people worldwide who practice Chen style Tai Chi, and that is the main source of Tai Chi from which other family styles, including Yang style, Sun style, Wu style, Hao style, all originated. And I am a master of 4 of the 5 main styles. So again, it's not just this guy living next door who goes out on his patio and does Tai Chi. There's more to my background.
Yes, everybody. I get to watch Andy do Tai Chi on his back patio, and it is the most beautiful art form. Yes, I told him if he ever sees me out there staring at him, don't think anything crazy. It's just beautiful.
Thank you. And you know, because you see this, traditional Tai Chi is not only done with the empty hands, the beautiful flowing hands, but it's also done with a variety of weapons. So there's a Tai Chi straight sword, there's a Tai Chi curved sword called the saber, Tai Chi spear, Tai Chi fan, Tai Chi pole that's like 10 feet long. And these are all traditional weapons that more advanced practitioners of Tai Chi will also learn, mostly to honor the martial tradition of Tai Chi.
Was Tai Chi ever outlawed in China?
The answer is yes, it absolutely was. And this is an interesting thing. It was outlawed several times. All martial arts were outlawed when the Manchurians took over because they didn't want people fighting. So when the Manchurians came into China, they breached the Great Wall of China and came in and they took over Beijing, Peking at that time, and became known as emperors, because it doesn't matter what, if you were a humble man who grew up on the steppes of Mongolia and led an army, by the time you captured Peking, you were an emperor. You know, that's just the way things work. So Tai Chi was outlawed then, and then it was allowed to come back in the 1700s and 1800s. But then when the Chinese government took over, especially during the Cultural Revolution, once again, Tai Chi was banned because it was anything having to do with traditional China was banned. And so all these Chinese Tai Chi masters had to basically, they were either imprisoned or they had to go work in the fields, and they could only practice late at night. And one specific master, very well known, he was jailed. He was in a small cell, let's just say, 6 feet by 6 feet. He had to learn how to practice within a space of 6 feet. When we are in a restricted space ourselves doing Tai Chi, like in a hotel room, we do what's called jail cell Tai Chi. So we'll do a few moves and then we'll step back and gracefully move into another sequence. So it's interesting, your question about was it outlawed? It's been outlawed several times.
We're very fortunate to still have this art form with us, with it being outlawed so many times.
You're 100% right. Now, this is very interesting because my present teacher, Grandmaster Tsao, he didn't go through the Cultural Revolution, but his teacher did. In fact, the Chen family is still represented by 5 tigers. They're old now. They're my age or older. But during the Cultural Revolution, they had to hide and practice their art at night and away from prying eyes. But those 5 gentlemen, maintained Tai Chi and were able to bring it out when it was allowed to be out again. Now, here's something interesting. Now in China, Tai Chi is considered to be a national treasure. And the humble Chen village is now a metropolis with dozens of schools. Tens of thousands of people are there at any given time from all over the world studying Tai Chi. And those 5 tigers are national heroes now for maintaining that art during the Cultural Revolution.
What a great story. Have you ever been there?
I went to China with our teacher, but earlier on, you heard me refer to the fact that Chen Wangting also studied with some Taoist masters. And so on our trip, instead of going to Chen Village, we went to Wudong Mountain, which is the home of Taoism. So I have photos of Dea and me practicing in these beautiful mountains with these gorgeous Taoist temples. It was a wonderful experience. And then we did travel around China to some other places and study with some other grandmasters on that 2-week trip.
What an impact that must have had on your practice and your career, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Absolutely, it did. And it's so unfortunate because with the current relationship between the United States and China, there are people going to China now, but to be honest with you, I don't feel comfortable going to China now. At any time, something could happen and you could be held as a hostage there. So I would love to go back to China, but not until relations between our 2 countries become more amenable, let's say. But yes, it is a beautiful place. And the Chinese people themselves, it's so frustrating. You know how governments are different than the people of any country. The government of China right now is being pretty strict with the current Xi Jinping or whatever his name is. But the people are so kind and friendly. You know, it's just like everywhere. You can't judge a country by its government. You have to really know the people, and they're lovely people.
That's wonderful. You got to experience that, their culture,
Yeah.
the people,
Yes.
and have a great takeaway. Maybe one day you'll get to go back.
I do hope that we can go back, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Even my teacher who I think he has dual citizenship, he won't go back right now. And he's Chinese, but he won't go back.
Okay, so let's talk about somebody who is new to the Tai Chi art form. What kind of improvements can you expect to see practicing, and how long does it usually take? How much of a commitment does it take to start seeing?
I really like the second part of your question because first off, let's talk about the benefits, and then we'll come back and talk about what it takes in order to receive those benefits. So essentially, you can learn Tai Chi from one of 3 perspectives: health, personal cultivation, practicing it as an art, and martial arts. So the vast majority of people who take up Tai Chi, especially older learners, are taking it up for some specific health benefit. They may be taking it up because their balance is beginning a little wobbly, so they want to improve their balance. They may have high blood pressure, a number of medical conditions by which diabetes, for example, and their health practitioner is telling them that they should do Tai Chi. Some people, as you know, they can't really do yoga for whatever reason. Now, we won't get into the reasons, but some people, yoga is just not suitable. clearly things like aerobics and Zumba are not suitable for a lot of older individuals. So Tai Chi, because it moves slowly, is a way for people to start moving and shifting their weight. Anytime you stand on one leg, any of your one-legged yoga poses, like tree pose, the weight-bearing leg, the bones are being told, hey, you need to get strong. And so they'll draw calcium into the bones. Well, in Tai Chi, even though there are some single leg postures, but simply moving slowly, one leg is bearing weight longer than you would in normal walking. So we have all these benefits. I know that this is only a verbal, but I have this thing called the Harvard Medical School Guide to Tai Chi. And anybody who's interested in taking up Tai Chi for health should obtain a copy of this. And it talks about all the many different medical conditions that are addressed by Tai Chi. But certainly one of the most significant is fall prevention. So the YMCA, when I used to teach at the YMCA, had a program called Moving for Better Balance, which was basically just Tai Chi. Now, let's come to the second part of your question. The subtitle of this book is 12 Weeks to a Healthy Body, Strong Heart, and Sharp Mind. So my wife, Dea, who also teaches Tai Chi, tells new students, she said, don't expect a miracle. Don't come to one class and think, oh, my balance is better. I've lowered my cortisol levels, my A1C has gone down. No, you have to do Tai Chi minimum 3 times a week for 12 weeks just to start to see these benefits. And I think you would agree it's the same with yoga, right?
Yes.
You can't just come to a yoga class and, hey, all of a sudden my heart rate's lower. No. And what I tell people is realistically, so 12 weeks, that's 3 months. I tell people to give it a full 6 months before they're going to see major changes in their body. But one thing that you can start to feel pretty much right away is the electrical feeling of the chi moving through the body. So I focus on helping people to move in a way that allows the chi to reach their palms and their fingers. And usually within 1 or 2 sessions, I'll get people to start feeling their chi. Once you start feeling your chi, you realize, hey, there's something there that I never knew was there before. It's so cool that a lot of people will just continue just for that reason alone, to get the feeling of chi moving through the body.
They can't wait to come back and continue.
Exactly. So today, for example, I had a new woman come to my class. So I had them do a very specific exercise where they held their hands apart about as wide apart as maybe a volleyball. And I had them doing some breathing. And then I said, now I want you to, because they could feel the chi going out to their fingers. And I said, now I want you to project your chi from the right palm to your left palm. And then the lady, everyone's doing all this. Oh my God, I feel it. And it was so wonderful. She had a breakthrough. I know she'll continue studying Tai Chi with me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was reading about all the improvements, and I'd like to just say what I have here. You've already said improvements that you can expect to see practicing Tai Chi, just like you said, done daily after 12 weeks. This has to do with the mind to switch between tasks easily. You had more activity in the prefrontal cortex, responsible for higher thinking skills.
Yes, improved cognition.
Because of the increased blood flow to the brain, which strengthens the hippocampus, which is critical for memory and cognitive function. So that right there is, wow, amazing. And we're not even talking about improving strength, flexibility, balance, lowering blood pressure, prevent falls, helps people with arthritis, and also helps with emotional and mental things going on, which we all have that in our lives at some point or another.
You're correct. Now, many of the benefits of Tai Chi have to do with lowering overall stress levels. So if you have high blood pressure and you can lower your stress level, obviously, then you're going to lower your blood pressure. Other aspects of Tai Chi have to do, as you mentioned, with improved circulation Now, here's the interesting thing. Why does circulation improve through the practice of this slow, obviously non-aerobic activity? And here's the truth that any practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine knows. In China, they say the qi and the blood are like big brother and little sister. So wherever the big brother goes, the little sister follows along behind. I know that's a rather chauvinistic point of view, but China's a very chauvinistic society. So wherever the qi goes, the blood follows. So as your qi gets stronger and is able to move fully throughout the body to penetrate all the tissues, it actually draws the blood behind it. And so this is where you're getting increased blood circulation or blood flows to the brain. Because when you do Tai Chi, your Chi not only goes to your fingers and your feet, it goes to the head as well. It goes to all the extremities of the body, including the head. And so we get greater Chi flow to the brain, results in increased blood circulation to the brain. And then, like you said, the hippocampus is stimulated and, improves memory because the hippocampus is related to memory, and then cognitive ability.
Good information there. Also, somebody who's new to Tai Chi, would you say it's going to group class or individual training?
Well, let's be honest. As a yoga teacher, one-on-one, you can make more corrections to the person. Since they're your only student, you can observe when they're not getting into postures correctly, when they may be running the risk of injuring themselves because they don't have their knee lined up properly with their foot. Clearly, you're going to get better instruction one-on-one. However, you can go to a group class as long as the class is not huge. My recommendation is try to find a group class that has no more than 10 to 12 students in it. And certainly, if at all possible, find a teacher whose teacher was a master, a Chinese master, okay? Don't go to somebody who studied with Jane Doe and then Jane Doe studied with Jack Smith, and Jack Smith might have studied with a Chinese person. And then the teacher you're going to has been doing Tai Chi for 2 years and went to a weekend course and got certified. You're not going to get the benefits of Tai Chi studying from teachers without a sufficiently deep understanding of Tai Chi. So find a good teacher. Now, you said talking about books. Among the books that I have written on Tai Chi, one is called the Tai Chi Teacher's Handbook. And in that book, I give a lot of advice based upon my own background to budding Tai Chi teachers. And one of the things I say in that book is realistically, you shouldn't attempt to teach Tai Chi until you've been practicing at least 5 years and have been certified through a good Tai Chi certification program. Like most yoga certification, the minimum is like 300 hours, isn't it?
200.
200. Okay. So my teacher, he offers certification. I was one of the first people he certified, and he just certified me based upon his knowledge of me. Anybody who wants to get certified through my teacher, who has a certification program, has to have 300 hours of training.
I could see where that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And very few Tai Chi teachers have that depth of background.
How long does it usually take a new student to learn a sequence?
This is a wonderful question, and it's something that Dea and I and many teachers deal with. So I teach 3 levels. The first level for beginners, the form, consists of 8 different postures that are performed in a continuous choreography, and it's called the Tai Chi 8 form. Most students can learn that Tai Chi 8 form in a bi-weekly class in 3 months. I normally ask my students to repeat that class before going on. So I ask them to stay with the Tai Chi 8 form for 6 months. And then they can go into my intermediate class where the form that they learn is called the 24 form. And as the name implies, there's 24 postures. So instead of an 8 posture form, it's now a 24 posture form. And that takes roughly 6 months to learn, but only after they've already been doing 6 months. So after a year of dedicated study, then they may choose to go on to my advanced group. And the advanced form has 85 movements in it, 85 postures. To perform that form at the correct speed takes about 18 minutes. To learn that form realistically, if you've learned the 8 form and the 24 form first, then that takes an additional year. So to move through the curriculum is 2 years. That's going to class twice a week and practicing on your own at least another couple of times.
Yeah. And you definitely suggest going through those steps to get better.
Not necessarily. Some people, they're happy to learn the 8 form, and that's all they want to do, okay? And then there's other people who feel that they've really achieved a major accomplishment by learning the 24 form, and they probably won't go on. So really, it's only the people who are serious about Tai Chi who will go on and study what we call the long form, the 85 posture form. Yes. And then if you're really serious and you go, well, that's cool. Now I want to learn the sword. I want to learn the spear. I want to learn that beautiful fan. You know what I'm saying? And so as long as you want to keep learning, there will be more things to learn. I'm still learning new stuff.
Very good.
Before we conclude, I do want to mention one thing, just briefly. Very closely related to the practice of Tai Chi is something called Qigong. You've heard of Qigong.
Yeah.
And that would be an entirely different podcast. You might want to get a different presenter. I know some people who are specialized in Qigong, but Qigong is softer even than Tai Chi, and it focuses more. You don't step around very much in Qigong. Normally you just stand in one place and you do these various movements over and over again. And its purpose, Gong comes from like Kung Fu, and Kung Fu just means dedicated work. So Qigong is dedicated work to promote your Qi. Now, a lot of Tai Chi teachers, myself included, also incorporate Qigong into their classes because, as I mentioned previously, many of the benefits that are the health benefits come from the increased circulation of the Qi, which then improves blood circulation. So people who are going to study Tai Chi ideally will find a Tai Chi teacher who also includes Qigong as part of their regular curriculum. So just for your listeners, don't ignore Qigong if you're interested in Tai Chi. Find someone who will teach you both Tai Chi and Qigong.
Okay, more options. Great.
Yes, good.
The ideas for your books. You've written quite a few books. How do you keep getting these ideas for your next book? Is there a flow that you want to continue with?
That's a good question. So the first book that I wrote was at the request of one of my private students. And she said, "You're giving me all this information, but I can't remember it all. Can you write it down?" And so I said, okay, I'll write it down. And then I said, well, crap, there's a lot of people who would want to know this. I'm going to put it into a book. So that became my first book called Tai Chi Essentials. And then I only put a smattering of what I know into that book. So I said, now I'm going to write a book for more advanced students. And I wrote that book, and I included a lot of Qigong knowledge in that book. And then I realized that I still needed to say more about the Tai Chi that's done on hands. We call that empty hand Tai Chi. So I wrote a book, and I envisioned at that time that I would write a book about the empty hand, the weapons, and the two-person interaction. Sometimes you'll see me playing with someone in the backyard, tossing them around. That's called pushing hands. But that book actually expanded into a 5-volume series because I knew I needed to add some additional stuff into the series. So that took me 5 years. And then I wrote another couple of books like the Tai Chi Teacher's Handbook. That was a book I wrote. I wrote a book on mindfulness practice. I gave you a copy of
Yes,
that
you
book.
did. I still have
Okay,
it.
called The Tao of Mindfulness. And right now, working on yet another book because this is a subject that's very fascinating to me right now. It's called Wu Wei, the art of doing nothing, but not just sitting around doing nothing in such a way that you accomplish everything you need to do. This is a very traditional Taoist perspective, essentially surrendering yourself to the flow of nature and just acting in accordance with natural law. And then you're still acting, but it feels like you're not acting. This came to me. I don't remember exactly where, but it came to me. I was starting to do Wu Wei more and more myself. And so I said, I'm going to write a book about this.
Very good. And you're working on that now.
I'm working on that now. I hope to have it available by Christmas of this year, actually.
Something to look forward to.
Yes, exactly.
I wanted to ask you about Transcendental Meditation.
I've been doing TM since 1969, and I was certified as a teacher of TM in 1972. But I don't talk about that much because there's a lot of controversy. There's not that much controversy about Tai Chi. You can go to Tai Chi in the park and people have seen it. It's not weird. But when you talk about meditation, there's a lot of controversy, especially there's some religious reaction against meditation and anything from India. So I don't really talk about it that much. If someone comes to me and says, I really want to learn TM, I'll teach them, but I don't promote myself as a TM teacher. I don't go out of my way to talk about that. Now, here's a funny little anecdote. We can conclude on this if you want to. I was under the gazebo where the casements are in Ormond Beach, and we have class there a couple times a week. And some people walked by. The woman turned to the man so we could intentionally, I think she said it, so we could hear, what a bunch of quacks. Looking at us doing Tai Chi, and this is that reactionary thing. If it's not something that you're familiar with, you tend to dismiss it as quackery. I mean, it didn't hurt my feelings, but this is why especially with meditation, I'm pretty careful about talking about it.
Yeah, and that's why one of the reasons why I'm doing these podcasts is because I want people to listen and learn, to hear what the benefits are of different things out there that we can do to improve our health, our fitness, our minds, and the way we deal with things. It's real and it works. And somebody who might see you in the park and think what is it doing for you? When they hear you talk and we talk about all the things that it does for you and where it's brought you in your life and others too. And maybe you might even like to mention a success story without mentioning names of one of your students.
This is a good thing. So I have a student who has Parkinson's. There's a lot of research, probably the single biggest body of research into Tai Chi and benefits is fall prevention. Absolutely. Dozens and dozens of studies. But next is Parkinson's. And so I have a student who has Parkinson's and his tremors have reduced. His balance is better. His agility is better. I can tell cognitively that he is sharper than he was, when he started 6 months ago. So that was a great question to end the podcast on, an actual real life example of someone who's benefited from the practice of Tai Chi.
And how wonderful does that make you feel as a teacher?
It does make me feel wonderful, but more to the point, I know that this works. So it's not like, wow, it worked for you. It's going to work for anybody who does what you said, daily or 3 times a week for 12 weeks or 6 months or whatever. They're going to get better.
Yeah, very good.
Okay.
I'd like for you to leave our audience with a goal to lead a better life.
Okay. I will tell you the single best thing that anybody can do is to learn how to breathe correctly and incorporate that either into a specific time where they just do a seated breathing practice or incorporate correct proper breathing into their daily activity. And again, as a yoga teacher, I know that you can appreciate that.
Andrew Townsend, try to get a better breathing practice. It'll take you a long way for sure. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it. I know it's going to be a great one, and the listeners will definitely enjoy listening to you, the Tai Chi master.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
This is Angela Grayson from the Loving Life Fitness podcast to help others in their fitness journey. All possible.
It's time to wake up. Here we go.